Third Baseman Blake Cousins here, and we have special guests, Corey Good and David Wilcock, in regards to their new documentary, Above Majestic. Facebook and other social media services doesn't want the information to get out.
Well, we definitely expected this movie to be controversial. All the topics in it about secret societies, reptilians, QAnon, satanic ritual abuse, and the secret space program, it's going to catch some flack. There's no way around it. We expected Facebook and other social media to try to block it from coming out to the mainstream, but it's coming out anyway. We even saw a huge smear campaign against some of the people in the movie and the movie itself, but it still is going viral. I don't think anything can hold back the message of this movie. So I think what you can expect is for it to basically be seen everywhere. A lot of people are going to have their paradigms questioned, if not smashed, and they're going to have to at least open their minds and consider looking at the world in a whole other way.
So you have to understand that when it comes to a subject like the secret space program, the amount of media censorship, the amount of opposition that we have encountered is totally outrageous. This doesn't make sense to me if what we were talking about was actually untrue. It actually makes a lot more sense that we're getting censored this badly if, in fact, what we're talking about has an underlying grain of truth. So that's the first thing. Why, on literally the day before the film is going to premiere on direct-to-video release, do we have the social media giant Facebook telling us that we are not authorized to comment on current events or politics? And I talked to the guys, by the way, at the studio, and what they said was that the authorization process takes 10 days, okay? And if you ask, they almost never give you permission because they did the research. And when you get that question, you're lucky to even get a response. So what's going on here? Why would people be so upset about the secret space program? Why would they care? Why would if you want to call it that, the deep state, use social media against us in this way? In other words, if we're not telling you the truth, if this is all just a big make-believe, when you try to sanitize people's opinions, there's clearly an agenda behind that. And that is like popping open the manhole cover to a really dark sewer that a lot of people don't want to look at. But you know what? If we don't go deep within and try to find reasons for why these very bizarre things are happening in our society, then we are doomed to repeat the same mistakes that we've been making all throughout recorded time. And I don't think that's where we need to be as a society at this point. I think we need to transcend the idea of my way or the highway, might makes right, take it or leave it. This kind of stuff, the internet is supposed to be free. It's supposed to be something where everybody can talk. And that's another question that I've asked to people who are skeptical about the things that we talk about, like the secret space program. I asked them this question. Well, if you are so threatened by this information that you need a corporation to prevent you from even seeing it, don't you feel that you're cool enough, knowledgeable enough, smart enough, intelligent enough to understand for yourself what's true? Don't you feel that you have the pizzazz in your life to be able to decide whether you want to believe something? Do you really need a company like Facebook to tell you the truth?
The DC flyover was an event that occurred over successive weekends in July of 1952 in Washington, D.C. And what had happened was that there was a mass sighting right over the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. There was many lights in the sky. Now, many people believe that this was a UFO or an extraterrestrial incident, but in fact it was not. It was German saucers, German craft that were flying over the Capitol building and essentially forcing the hand of the Americans to accept many of these Nazi scientists into their control structures. When many of these Nazi scientists came into America after World War II in Operation Paperclip, they infiltrated into basically every power structure in the United States, government, media, medical systems, basically everything. After World War II, James Forrestal went to Germany to tour many of the research facilities the Germans had over in Europe, and John F. Kennedy actually accompanied him on those tours. Some believe that Kennedy was actually given information by Forrestal about secret space programs and the UFO phenomenon. And near the end of James Forrestal's career, he was also embroiled in many policy struggles within the United States government. He wanted to disclose the UFO phenomenon and the technologies associated with it. It was said that he committed suicide by jumping out of a high-rise hospital that he was staying in at the time of his death. But of course, many people are also believing that he was actually pushed out of the window and in fact assassinated to prevent him from working to disclose these technologies and UFO projects.
Recently, over the past few months, Donald Trump has been talking about the U.S. Space Force. Both of you guys have been talking about it for a long time. Why do you think the president's mentioning it now?
Well, I've talked over a year about the alliance. And the alliance is made up of a loosely knit group of people fighting the cabal. The alliance had sort of made a deal that they were going to go for a partial disclosure, which is they're going to let us know about certain technologies, certain parts of our history, but in little pieces and protracted out over 20 to 50 years. Well,
Hello, Josh. I'm Susan. I know your time at work.
those of us in this full disclosure project, we want full disclosure, and we want full disclosure now, and that's what we're working for. So a part of this slow release of information is going to be, we have had some secret technology for a while, but guess what? We can just fly out to the, maybe to the moon and back, maybe to Mars on extended excursions, but we're pretty much still around the Earth right now. But we do have some anti-gravitic technologies, and we're now letting you know about it. Well, I've been talking about that being a part of this partial disclosure, and the Space Force, I think, is a way for them to aggregate all of these secret programs, secret space programs on the military and industrial complex level, to aggregate them and, do a debut under the Space Force moniker.
I've had different answers regarding President Trump and whether, in fact, he's been briefed on the extraterrestrial presence. One of the things that I think I can get away with saying, and there's always a risk here, is that Pete Peterson told me that during the time of the 2016 election, remember, Gaia was advertising our show, Cosmic Disclosure, on the front page of Drudge Report, which was Grand Central for all of the news related to the election. So there we are on the front page, being seen by millions and millions of people. And during that time, Pete had some episodes on the show. Somehow, according to Pete, Trump actually did phone him and asked him, is the stuff that you're saying in the show with David Wilcock actually true? And Pete said yes, and Trump said, thank you, that's all I need to know. It's a very short conversation. So, does Trump know what's really going on? And from what I've heard, again from Pete Peterson in this case, you don't get your full cosmic security clearance. Even as the President of the United States, they don't give you that clearance until you've been president for 2.5 years. And he hasn't quite been president that long yet. Because remember, the election was at the end of 2016, so you have the year 2017, 2018. So based on that statistic, Trump wouldn't be getting information about the cosmic level of clearance until mid-2019. However, we do believe that thanks to this group called the Alliance, which is, again, an international group comprising a majority of the different countries of the world, their governments, their militaries, and a surprising number of the military and intelligence community here in the U.S. They are all working now for a common goal, which is to stop this insanity that is going on with the globalist elite who are literally trying to depopulate the planet. They want to reduce how many people are here by billions. They even put that initiative out there in the so-called Georgia Guidestones, where it says that they want to bring the planet's numbers down to 500 million people. Now, I've heard from certain insiders that they've now bumped the number up to potentially as high as 2 billion, but that still means 5 billion people gone. And this is insanity. Remember, they do have very elaborate underground facilities that can hold millions of people. They have incredible underground drilling technology. They have the ability to build incredible cities in a relatively short time. And that is where a lot of our money is going. Our money is not just disappearing, it's going underground and it's going off planet. And this is no different than what we see in the history of Rome, in which Rome was expanding so much that now all of their money is offshore because they're busy trying to build empires outside the homeland, and the homeland ends up crumbling. Except in this case, the homeland is the Earth's surface. What we're not seeing is these gorgeous, glistening, beautiful underground cities. All of these various shuttle systems that they call the sub-shuttle that allows you to be transported at very high speeds from one city to another. We don't see all the spacecraft they've been designing. We don't see the elaborate build-outs they have on the moon, which are usually on the dark side so that we don't see the lights when the moon is obscured by the Earth's shadow. We don't see any of the stuff that they've got on Mars. We don't see the stuff that they have on various other moons and asteroids in our solar system. This is real. This is not science fiction. We are being lied to on an unbelievable level. And Trump definitely is aware of at least a good part of what is going on. That is why I believe on September 19th that QAnon, which does definitely appear to be coming from the Trump administration, anybody who studies it for very long, you're going to figure that out pretty fast. QAnon said that programs exist outside the public domain regarding secret space programs. The problem, of course, is the president is not on a need-to-know basis. So we are dealing with a corporate structure that has completely broken away from the elected, legitimate governmental bodies of the earth. They don't answer to anybody, they're not accountable to anybody, and they have a technological advantage that makes it very difficult to approach them on their own terms.